So welcome back to the cabin once again. Hey, I just got off of work, so you'll have to excuse the work clothes, but I'm hungry, and I thought this would be a good opportunity to show you like what I do for just a really quick meal. And of course, it's going to be wood-fired pizza in the cast iron oven. Now, this is what you would call more like a white oven than a black oven. So there's two different kinds of ovens. There's a white oven and a black oven. The oven that I have in the backyard that has the fire right in with the pizza, that's considered a black oven because the fire is in with the pizza. This is more like a white oven. The fire is just around the firebox that creates the heat, but it's not in with the fire. This is going to be a little bit challenging because, boy, I've got it down to a science in the backyard. I can really cook a good pizza. But it has a lot to do with the temperatures that you have. So trying to push this thing up to the temperatures that I want to cook this pizza is going to be a challenge. I like somewhere between 700 degrees, 650, 700 degrees on the floor, and pushing up to 1200 degrees on the dome. That cooks that pizza in about a minute. 90 seconds, somewhere in there, a minute and a half at the most. The maximum that I really like my pizza to be in the oven is 2 minutes because the dough is fresh, it's very tender, and the longer it's in that oven, the harder it gets down deep. If you cook it at that really extreme temperature, you get this really beautiful crust over it, but you still have a nice moist center. So just a really bready, just goodness in the inside of that crust. So that's what I really enjoy. So let's see if we can do it here. Because the oven's going to take just a couple minutes to get up to temperature, let's talk a little bit about wood stoves and draft. This is really important. Obviously, you can't do that here. We've talked about that before. Go on, go that way. Go. So let's talk about chimneys, wood stoves, and draft. A lot of people really think that wood stove, and this would fall into that category, is the driving force behind the whole operation, and really they're completely wrong. The chimney is the motor that drives the wood stove. Without the chimney, the wood stove is zero. It's nothing. It doesn't have the capability of burning properly. It needs a certain amount of draft. It's all produced by the chimney. This has a 6-inch vent that runs the stove, and that's the way it was designed to be operated. A lot of times people will ask me, well, I've got an 8-inch collar. Can I decrease to a 6? The answer is no. If your stove has an 8-inch collar, it needs to be 8-inch all the way up. I've got this one piped in to the chimney, but it has a separate lining system on it. This has a 6-inch stainless steel pipe running all the way to the top of the chimney up through the middle of the stonework. It is not tied into the fireplace. It does not vent into the fireplace. It vents into its own chimney lining system, which is 6-inch all the way. Very important. You can increase a little bit, say an inch or so. 6-inch pipe, you can go to 7. You're pushing it when you go to 8, but you can go to 8. You should never go any larger than that, because what happens when smoke goes into a larger area is it drops in temperature. So you lose the energy that you had stored in that heat to make a good draft. You should never decrease because it increases the heat and reduces the draft. I like to tell people you wouldn't go buy a big fancy truck and put a little 4-cylinder engine in it. That's what happens when you put a small flue, or you run your bigger stove into a smaller flue, is that you just decreased the stove, its capabilities and how it works, and you get smoke back into the house, and it's just, unless there was bad engineering in the design of the stove and you got away with it, keep it the size that it is. Anyway, what I'm doing now is that I've got the stove running at its normal. And I've got the oven pushing. It looks like about 300 degrees now. And I'm shooting for about 500 degrees, which is normal operation for this stove. And then what I'm going to do is put a lot of really small pieces of wood in there and really get that fire to run around the outside of that. And we're going to try to cook this pizza just as quick as we can possibly cook it. So I can show you now what's going on. I've got a piece of tempered glass back here that I can't pick up because it's too hot. Let me find something to pick it up with. My daughter left a pair of white gloves lay out. Big mistake. She's at work. Oh, they're tight. And I put the glass up there on purpose. It's tempered glass. It can take the heat. But I put it up on there so that it'll be hot and I don't thermal shock it. Even though tempered glass should take the thermal shock, it was safer for me that I would be ensured that I'm probably not going to break it by putting it up on there. This fire runs from the firebox across the top, and I do have a couple little holes that I can peek in here to, I have a couple holes here that I can peek in to see how far that fire is coming around, and I can just barely every once in a while see it go in there. So I could actually drop another my wood's just a little too long for this thing. Okay. Now once that stuff starts to burn, give it a little bit more air on the top. What will happen is as that piece of wood produces smoke, that smoke will come across the top and then be all burned up by the extra oxygen that it's getting through the holes or through the cracks, or there's a vent here that I can open up. That'll allow that fire to go further and be more efficient. And I put the glass on there. I put the glass on there because with that plate off of there, air travels into the hole and you don't actually get to see the fire moving across there. But now with that piece of glass on there, you can see that that fire races across the top and shoots down the outside here. $450 on the floor and $700 on the dome. I'm probably not going to get the floor to what I want just because the bulk of the heat is on the top going down the side and the coldest place is going to be the floor. So we'll push it till that pile of wood is just about gone and then we're going to cook it. Let's go ahead and just get it ready. Now I did cut it down. That's what this is. I cut it down from stuff that I had in the freezer that was made for the back oven, and I just don't have the room to cook as big of a pizza in here as I do out back, so I just trimmed it up a little bit. This has been in the freezer for probably, I'm going to say 2 months, and it keeps for quite a while. And 2 months is probably pushing the limit of what I like, but it's not freezer burn or anything, so it's fine. Not quite round. And kind of small for that too. I like to do all of my stretching inside of where my fingertips are. I really don't do much here. I pull from that to make it bigger. Or in this case, you can just let the gravity pull it down. Just want to keep it from poking a hole because if you get a hole in the center, it's pretty hard to get it off of there when the sauce comes through. That is about the perfect size for me. My daughter's at work, so it's just Lavender and I. It's just Lavender and I, isn't it, darling? We're not doing anything fancy tonight. Just trying to get some food for our belly, huh? There's always a debate. Pepperoni on the top or under the cheese? And I'm definitely a pepperoni on the top kind of guy because I like my pepperoni to get cooked. To be, instead of being gummy and underneath, I like it to be, get that crunchy edges on it if you get the oven hot enough, especially the back oven. The one in the backyard will just crunch up a piece of pepperoni on the top. How about? And I'm using sandwich size pepperoni. Just because it's what I had in the freezer, I'll use whatever I've got. But I did buy these once for a pizza party. And they were down there and I'm going to use them. One for you and one for me. 500 on the floor, 700 on the top. We are going to cook it. Let's get a couple more pieces of small wood in there. Just so we can make sure we're bumping that heat up as high as possible. That's good. And let's do it. Ready? I don't have a clock out here. We'll have to try to time it. Okay. I have no idea how long that's been in there. You have a better idea than I do because you have a time. Let me move this stuff out of the way. Bring over a cutting board and a plate. Get a quick peek. Looking good, not quite brown yet. I'm hungry, bud. Sit down. Good girl. That's a good girl. That's a good girl. I'm hungry. All right, that's it. We're going to pull it out. It's the best we're going to get. Oh, there you go. Look at that. Huh? Don't that look delicious? All right. There you go. Not bad for a cast iron cook stove. Not quite. How much is that Archie at the window? Come on, bud. Come on. Coming in? Hey, closing the window. Archie. He has second thoughts about coming in once the window's open. You stay down. Archie loves cheese. You stay down. I mean it. All right. And it's just about too hot even. The cheese is still too melted to pick it up. But you get the point. Not quite what I can get from the back oven, because where this is crunchy, this over here is kind of not, because it was toward the door, where I can achieve that with the whole thing by rotating it in the backyard. Maybe I could have done that here, but it's a lot more work inside that oven, because every time I open the oven, I lose some temperature. We're down in the backyard, the door is open all the time, and it's got way more than it needs. So anyway, thanks for coming along here at the cabin. Me and the critters are going to put down a pizza. Take care.